Meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat Courier News. Formal action may be taken. Can I get a roll call?
I'm here.
Mrs. Fiore.
Here.
Mrs. Peach.
Here.
Mrs. Pogorski.
Here.
Mrs. Wolf.
Here.
Mrs. Run.
Here.
Dr. Ciela.
Here.
Ms. Hamilton.
Here. Please rise for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll turn it over to Dr. Hart, Superintendent Report.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. For my superintendent's report tonight, I'd like to begin talking about a recent partnership that we forged with the Reddington Township Committee and our local police department. Tonight, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Chris Dwyer, who's here with us. Lieutenant Dwyer has been a wonderful partner as we've talked about this shared service agreement that I'll tell you about in a couple of minutes. He's here to provide the board and the public with some information about police officer responsibilities, and he's also here to answer any questions that you may have from the police or PD perspective after the presentation as well. So welcome, Lieutenant. We really appreciate you being here. So first, I'll introduce by saying the Uvalde, Texas shooting really had us take stock of school safety and security and re-examine how we could better secure our schools. The district administration, the Board of Education, began to consider ways in which we could enhance, augment, review our safety plans for the safety of our students, our staff, our visitors, and community members. Our overall goal was to develop a new safety and security plan that included 4 Class 2 or Class 3 police officers, 1 for each school building. And our plan is more extensive than that. We reviewed last June, we'll talk about this in a moment, the previous plan, and there are other actions under consideration. But in addition, one of our ultimate goals as a Board of Education and District Administration was to create this partnership with the police to ensure that we had adequate law enforcement on our school grounds when students were present. So the actions we took were to collaborate with local police and our township officials, to conduct a financial analysis of such a goal, and to make recommendations for best use of officers within our school buildings. Our timeline started really shortly after the Texas shooting. On June 8th, we had a Board of Education meeting. I provided a safety and security update to the full board and the public, and some of our accomplishments since our first 3-year plan back in 2018, which was developed after the Parkland, Florida shootings. We talked about all of our accomplishments at our board meeting. We identified about 85% of the actions on that 3-year plan were complete. Some were abandoned and some we wanted to revisit. Some were delayed really due to COVID as well. In July, a safety and security plan was developed and discussed in executive session with the Board of Ed. July, August, September, and October, the Finance Committee of the board had discussions about the safety and security plan. We reviewed all of the action steps, the points of the plan, as well as added, revised, and otherwise reviewed some of the actions that we wanted to move forward with. On June 2nd, August 16th, and even as recent as November 7th, we had collaborative meetings with district administration, Board of Education representation, law enforcement, and Reddington Township officials from the Township Committee. Those meetings were really productive for us to talk about our goal of ensuring that our schools were adequately staffed with police and develop a plan for how we can best work collaboratively to ensure this goal was met. In August and September, we reviewed some of our plans with the leadership team. November 15th, which was our last board meeting, The Board of Education adopted a shared services agreement that I'll go over in a minute, and it was approved by the board. And then on November 21st, the Township Committee met and they adopted the shared services agreement that we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. So this has been several months in the making, and we're really pleased to announce that we've achieved our goals. This agreement was developed collaboratively. This was a true partnership between the police, the Board of Education, the district administration, the Township Committee. A lot of folks were at the table. It provides, and we can celebrate this, a total of 4 officers in the district, 1 for each building. So we have 1 officer for each school in the district full-time. An 8-hour workday. We're here when students arrive until students are dismissed. It outlines the responsibilities of the officers while working on district property. It shares the total cost of all 4 officers in an even 50-50 split between both governing bodies. Both the Board of Education and the Township are ensuring that they have an equal share for the safety and security of our schools, which is a huge accomplishment in the shared services agreement and sets the tone for future shared services agreement in other towns around the county and potentially around the state. And this shared services agreement can be renewed on an annual basis. A couple of things that I want to point out. The 4 officers in each building is something new to our district. It's not something that every school district has, and it's something that we definitely should celebrate. But the third bullet point down, the shared cost between both the township as well as the Board of Education, is a signal that this was really a truly collaborative effort between both the township and the Board of Education. And it's something that, in my experience, I could say, I think this is the first and perhaps only in Hunterdon County where there's this shared agreement between both parties to split the costs of such personnel for the school, which is great. It allows the schools some funds to focus on teaching and learning and educational staff, and it allows the township to do the township administration, DPW, and things like that I know that they're responsible for as well. The officer responsibilities, these are the things that are outlined in the shared services agreement. They're going to assist school personnel in dealing with any school emergencies, patrol the school buildings and grounds to protect from any illegal or threatening activities. They inspect points of entry and exit on a daily basis through rotations and rounds. They report and address any observed irregularities, things that, see something, say something. Well, now our building principals and our building staff have someone to say something to that's appropriately trained to really investigate some irregularities on district property. They can take any necessary action with respect to trespassers or suspicious activity, warn, detain, or take into custody any violators if necessary. But truly, at the end of the day, our officers, and you'll meet them in a minute through the presentation, we want them to be part of our school community. We want them to be an adult in the building that students know, that read to students in their class, they're comfortable telling them things, that they are in the building as assistance and guidance and help for staff and students. We want them to be part of our school community. We want them to be embraced by our parents, and our students, and our staff. Lieutenant Dwyer, I know that these are responsibilities that our officers have in terms of their patrols in the building. Is there anything that you'd like to share in terms of their training and responsibilities for the township and the local police? Feel free to come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry about the facial hair. This is not what we typically do throughout the year, but as I'm sure you know, it's a fundraising thing. And as I told Dr. Hart, my wife likes it and my mother-in-law likes it, so it's staying there. I don't think I've met with Dr. Hart quite a few times, and I don't think I ever took the opportunity to thank him and the Board of Ed for making this happen. I honestly never thought it would happen, that we would have 4 officers, 4 officers, 1 officer for each school. Here we are, and and we're all very happy about it. And I think that we all benefit from it, not only the students, but the police department benefits as well. So, the line up there, the last line that I see about making the officers part of the school community, I think I've heard Dr. Hart say that numerous times, and I just want to say that they're also a part of our community in the police department. So not only do we work together with them, but we also train together. There's a lot of training that's required of us throughout the year, not only by the police department, but by the Attorney General's office. And the officers that work here in the school, they're required to receive the same training. So I could go down the list of everything that's required, but I think I'll spare you all of that. But just rest assured that anything that we do from how to de-escalate situations to how to manage people with mental disabilities, they're receiving the same training that we are. So we did have an FTO program, and we have one that's in existence for new hires, and we had to modify that program a little bit because the job description for the special officers is not the same. Part of that program for us was having them shadow the existing school resource officers and ensuring that they read all of our policies, because any policy that I have to follow, they too have to follow, and are responsible for and have to sign off on. We're happy that they're here, and the other benefit that I wanted to mention is that these officers can work for us. Not only do they work in the schools, but they'll come out and they'll work different events for us, whether it be a township committee meeting, court security, a variety of things. So they get exposure not just in the school, but also in different areas of the township.
Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Dwyer, for coming here tonight and for sharing your expertise with us.
Very well.
Lieutenant, there's no need to apologize for facial hair. That's okay. Let's meet our officers. Over at White House School, this is Officer Tom Wallets. Tom previously was a K-9 detective. He served as a Class 2 officer as well in Somerset, and he's a former Board of Education member. And you can see here that he's cozied up with Cubby, and he is becoming a White House School Cub of character. This is Officer John Harris. Officer Harris has been with us on staff for, I think, about 2.5 years. He's been our part-time officer. He's at Three Bridges School. Officer Harris is a former chief of police, I believe, as well. And he really likes Three Bridges School, and there he is, showing his tiger character right there behind him. Hollenbrook School, this is Officer Connor Strom. Connor comes to us with experience as a Class 2 officer. He worked at the Jersey Shore as a special Class 2 over the summer, and has experience managing things like crowds on boardwalks and things like that down at the Jersey Shore. At Reddington Middle School, this is Officer Brian Gilmurray. Brian has been here about 5 or so plus years, I want to say about that. He was here when I got here. He was our sole lone officer patrolling the schools when I arrived, and he is at Reddington Middle School. So these are our 4 officers. We're thrilled to have them. They are already integrating themselves as part of our school community. I've told them, they've been here about 4 to 5 weeks or so. We were going to let them get acclimated, learn the job, and then we're going to have a meeting together to talk about some of the routine patrols and things that they've been doing for us. And finally, I mentioned this, quote back in June when we talked as a Board of Education about the job of keeping our children safe and teaching them well is something that we can only do together with the help of friends, neighbors, the help of a community, and the help of a nation. And I want to mention this again because this really is a unique time for our community in the sense that we really did come together as a community, as a group, and collaboratively develop the shared service agreement where we have a true partnership with the township. So we're thrilled to have this. With that, that concludes this part of my presentation. I'll open up to questions from the board, and I asked Lieutenant to stay here in case the board had any questions for him as well.
I just want to mention something that I hadn't thought of in the past. You mentioned people on the property basically that shouldn't be here during the school day, and that's something that we've had a hard time addressing. So I think that's an added benefit that that the officers can address and that our teachers don't have to feel uncomfortable with. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Agreed.
I'd just like to reemphasize, what an important symbol and actually manifestation of the collaboration between the district and the township. I mean, this is, from a position of having been here for 12 years, it's unprecedented how close we now work with the township. And this is just such a fruitful and positive opportunity to work with them, to integrate well with them, and to show that we're all about
the kids here in the future. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Any other questions for either of us, Lieutenant Dwyer and myself? I have asked him to stay through the public portion of the board meeting as well, in case there's something that comes up that, you know, we could address together as well.
Thank you.
All right. The second part of my superintendent's report is to recognize a departing board member, and I'll just stay up here for a moment. Eric Zwerling joined the board in April of 2010. He has served on the board for approximately 12 years. He was a member of the policy committee and chair of the Green Committee. During his time in service to the board, Eric has made substantial contributions, most notably in the area of energy efficiency and sustainability. His passion and deep knowledge of environmental sustainability has supported the district in its venture to apply for and receive the Green Ribbon Award in all 4 buildings and Sustainable Jersey recognition in all 4 buildings, with our most recent award making note of all 4 schools achieving silver certification. Our district has developed a robust energy efficiency program and installed solar panels, which continue to be a conversation among our board. These contributions will serve the students of Readington for a lifetime. Most recently, the Eco Ambassadors of Readington Middle School, this was last year, honored Eric with the National Green Schools Society Chapter's Green Difference Award. They recognized him at the chapter level and further nominated him for a National Green Difference Award too. This is evidence of his extraordinary contributions to our green schools effort. With that said, I know that Ms. Freeman is here tonight on behalf of the Eco Ambassadors to say a few words to Eric, as this is his last meeting. Ms. Freeman.
Thank you, Dr. Hart.
You're welcome.
First off, I would say, what kind of crazy teacher would come to a board meeting and tear up that a board member is possibly completed? And so I think that's evident of how much we at RMS, and I know TBS and HBS and White House hold you in high regard and appreciation. So I'm usually, very rarely that I show up at a meeting all by myself. I think to most people's delight or possibly chagrin, I usually come with like a gang of kids, the Eco Ambassadors. Today, however, was a little different. I think I probably could have come here with, I don't know, 120 kids, because today our 40 plus Eco Ambassadors hosted 75 plus White House students for the most amazing, delightful event. But it was all about exploring together our indoor ecosystem. And we have like trout as a theme, and ecosystems and machine learning, how you teach machines what are fish and what are trash. And then the song that they made about trout, and they did movement, for an ecosystem. And for that reason, I'm here alone tonight because there are 45 plus middle schoolers who were just conked out after that event, myself included. I give props to the elementary school teachers because they bring a whole lot of energy. But what happened in that exchange was the White House students saying, "You have to come over to our gardens," and the over at RMS, the kids saying, "Yeah, we have this aeroponic tower, but it's not perfect because Miss Freeman unplugged it yesterday by mistake, and I almost killed all of their plants." But I think that just says something about, I don't know, the mindset and awareness that I think Eric as a board member, you have helped to, nurture, I think, right? With having like happy, healthy, fair environments, kind of like or community for all, it's kind of the mantra of the Eco Ambassadors. But I asked Dr. Hart, knowing that we were coming off of this crazy event, and then the TBSers were like super excited they're coming on Friday, making sure we all get our good sleep and food. and all of that to be ready for them. I asked him if I could come here rather than for, the goodbye send-off, but rather with an invitation, because the kids have, and I don't know, show too much of their hand, but I could say one of the things that they have working is a piece of original art that they created, and it's has a tie to an Eric Swirling Award that they are commemorating in your day. I'm sorry, Eric, because it's if I didn't know that I have like all these kids behind me who are like, are you gonna go? Can you go and tell them we're not quite ready yet? Can you tell them? And so that invitation to you would be for the Eco Ambassadors when they have this original art ready, and we wanted to come with it framed and ready to go, but it's not quite there. So I'm wondering if in your civilian life, 1 month from now, I don't know, 2 weeks from now, if you would come back here over to the BOE, and so that they could present it to you directly, because I think you can even tell by my voice from all the kids today, I think I'm just a fair substitute for a generation of kids that you help to inspire. So with that said, Eric, you always have my appreciation. But Dr. Hart, I'm hoping that we can arrange that at some point, and if the board will accept us yet one more time.
Agreed. We can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's no original artwork, but we're all concerned. Thank you, sir.
That concludes my superintendent's report.
Okay.
Happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy your break.
I would just like to add, I could add this later, but on behalf of the board, we've all, you've kept green initiatives in the forefront for all of us, and it's always been very much appreciated. And we all want to thank you for that.
I appreciate that. After the Green Committee report, there's a statement that I'd like to make, but I keep that in its proper place.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are now open to the public, limited to action items on the agenda. And if there are questions, I guess, for Officer
Sure.
Dwyer and Lieutenant Dwyer, then they can be brought up now as well.
I just have a message on here from Julie Laceracina saying several parents are waiting to be admitted. So Matt, is everybody
They were
in now?
admitted, they just weren't popping up on the
Okay.
laptop during the presentation.
Okay, I just want to make sure before we open it. So thank you.
Okay.
And Julie would like to speak when it's time for her as well.
On this portion or the next?
It sounds like now.
Did you want to?
Go ahead.
Do you want me to sit down now? I wanted to say I'm Melissa Bulow. I teach at Holmesville. I wanted to say thank you for the officer. He's been such a great addition, Officer Strong. He's a part of our SEL lessons in the morning with Mrs. Polly. They've been talking about this week internet safety, how we handle ourselves, how we have to be kind online like we would be in person. And he's been a part of those lessons. And he's really a part of our family. We're not anymore like, why is there an officer in our school? He's a part of our family. We say hello to him, and he's a part of us. So thank you very much. And he has helped so much with the strangers around when we're about to go outside, or the animals with the strangers. So, and it has been very uncomfortable. And I had somebody refuse to leave last year. So when I asked, so he has much more power than I do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add to that for a second? So 2 weeks ago, I came to Holland School, and I was checking on Connor to see how things were going. And the one thing that I learned, that he had visited a gym class that day, and he had broken the school record for some type of activity. I don't know what type of- he seemed very excited about it. I asked if he gets his name on a wall or anything. I don't know. He didn't know the answer to that, but I think he likes it here as I think that's fine.
We can tell him he beat the 4th and 5th graders.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Does, Ms. Flores, did you want to speak now?
Yes, please. Thank you. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Echo the comments. I too thank the board and the PD. I feel much better having an officer at the school. So sorry. Can you hear me?
Julie, hold on, we're waiting to hear you. Hold on.
Julie, can you try again, please?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks. I started off saying I too thank the board and the PD. I feel much better having the officers at the school, so very appreciative for that. The item on the agenda I did want to discuss was the correspondence, both of which were from me. So everyone has context. It's in regards to a book in the middle school library titled Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. A child checked this book out and understandably brought the book to their parent with some concerns. So everyone understands the substance, some of the objectionable content within the book says, I got like 20 pussies over here that I need to eat. I'm talking about pussy. I got a little honey mustard over here, a little Heinz 57, and a whole lot of pussy. Big ass hard on for that shit. You must get a hard on from all kinds of freaky shit. He did teach me how to eat a butthole. So Dr. Hart, I appreciate your responses and your very prompt responses. And I also appreciate you submitting my comments to the committee that is reviewing the book. But I do want to hear how the board and the administration is defending this book as appropriate for a school library and what academic objectives it meets. And I am interested in hearing the stance of each of the members of the board on that book, but I see in the rules in the agenda tonight that we are not permitted to pose questions directly to members of the board, which I also object to. They are elected representatives, and I think it's fair for the public to understand their individual stance on any given topic, but we'll pose the question to Ms. Hampel and Dr. Hart.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Is that because I wasn't muted?
She wasn't muted. She was-
Okay.
Okay, I just muted her.
I wasn't muted. Right, I'm
You
supposed to
should
be
be.
red here.
Green means it's coming with the loudspeaker.
Green is go.
Green is not.
Put it back.
I don't think
It's for the
anything.
room.
It wasn't
Okay,
this- Yeah, I don't think
okay,
it was that.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments?
Is that gonna get addressed?
This is the opportunity for public comment. This isn't for the board to respond. This is your opportunity to speak to the board.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
If you would like to speak, can you come to the podium and give us your name and township?
Sure. Scott Barton, White House. So, I mean, she kind of just touched on some of it. There's a lot more that's in there, but, you know, if someone were to read this to, like an adult were to read this to a child, they'd be featured on To Catch a Predator, and they'd be, registered as a sex offender. This stuff's not really appropriate for this age group. I'm not saying that the book's bad, that it needs to be banned, but for 10 to 13-year-olds, this is in middle school, 6th to 8th grade. It's not appropriate for that age group. The request to have this removed was almost 2 months ago. It's still available. When is it going to get moved on? When are we going to do something about this? Again, it doesn't need to be banned. Give it to the high school, right? But it's certainly not age appropriate. And the fact that it's taking a while that it needs to, that's also concerning. It's pretty obvious that it's not age appropriate. If people don't, people who think, well, maybe I need to decide on this, I would then be a little bit concerned about their ability to judge other things that may be age appropriate. Like when we had the meeting in September about talking to 2nd to 6th graders about sexual preference, masturbation, anal sex. I would also have concerns about their ability to judge what that is appropriate. If they can't figure out that this is not appropriate material for, 6th to 8th grade. Yeah, that's really about that. So please
Thank you.
consider removing that signal.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, actually, I do. Tom Curtis, I'm from White House Station. So I believe that that was presented by the gal on the screen and this gentleman here as a question. So I assume that there's going to be a response to the question. Am I correct?
When there is an opportunity for the board or the superintendent to respond, we do respond at the end of public comment. Sometimes questions require more work. So when everyone has had their opportunity to speak, we do try to address comments and questions.
Okay.
Not seeing, is there any more comments online? No. Okay. So that closes public comment. Do you have anything that you want to comment on now?
Yeah, again.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate the comments and the concerns as well. I want to point out that our policy regarding public complaints and grievances is currently being followed in order to review this book. We followed the timeline from the date that the complaint was received. We have convened the committee within the timeline provided to review the book. Committee has met. In fairness, not everyone on the committee had a chance to read the book its entirety. And I think if the decision is going to be made to remove something from our library, I think that the members of the committee should read the entire book. So we're giving them an opportunity to read the entire book. I've forwarded comments, those that I've received to the chair of the committee for consideration by the committee, and a final recommendation will be made. The recommendation will be provided to the Board of Education for their review, and the Board of Education is required to take action should the book be removed from the library. So we are following our policy, we are following the regulation, we are following all timelines that are outlined therein. We have communicated with the complainant to let that individual know that in fairness, we want the individuals that are serving on the committee to read the book in its entirety before they make a final recommendation to the Board of Education. I think that's all.
I would just add that in regards to Mr. Barton's comment, in regards to Mr. Barton's comment, the book is only allowed to be taken out by 8th graders, the 14-year-olds, in regards to the comment. That's all that I would add to that.
So they can't grab it from the bookshelf and take it to a table and sit and look at it in the library? Is there someone is it behind somewhere that they don't have access to unless they ask the librarian, or how does that work?
I don't believe so. I think it's on the shelves with all the other books. They
They
can
do have
peruse it,
access
they
to
can
You just can't
read it, they just can't check it out.
check it out.
Can I ask how long is this book?
Book is a little over 200 pages.
Okay.
It is a novel. It's considered a novel, a realistic fiction novel. That would be the genre that it would fit in. 200 pages? I'm going to say it's a little over 200 pages.
So when will the committee meet again? If you're giving them time to finish reading the novel, what's the timeline for that? I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't know if there's going to be a need to convene the whole committee again. I know that the chair of the committee is going to at least contact each member to ensure that the recommendations that are being made are of the committee. So I don't know if they need to be convened again, but I know that she will touch base with everybody via email and or phone call to review her final typing of the committee's recommendations. I would say after the first of the year would be when the board would get the recommendation from at the next board meeting in January.
The reorg, not the reorg.
No.
The 12, 17.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. All right, moving on then to board action, we had 2 emails regarding the book. Board action, approval of administrative minutes. Can we get a motion to adopt 1.01 to 1.05?
So move Beth. Second Carolyn.
Any questions or comments on the action items?
Is, for 1.05, is there a reason that that wouldn't also go to the policy committee for review?
Yes. This has to be reviewed every 6 months, and we're required before the end of December to resubmit our ESSER ARP grant and do any revisions or, Jason, I've lost the word, amendments to the grant, and this needs to be completed before that. I intended to bring it to the policy committee, but when we moved the policy committee meeting to after this board meeting, I knew it needed to be on this board meeting, so the Ed Tech committee reviewed it. It's a timeline thing, compliance timeline.
Any other questions? All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Betterman,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Abstain 1.05, yes to the rest.
Mr. Zarelli,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
Ms. Hamel.
Yes.
Passes.
Moving on to approval of minutes, can I get a motion to adopt 2.01 to 2.02?
So move Beth. Second Carolyn.
Any questions on the minutes? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Betterman,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Zarelli,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
Ms. Hamel.
Yes.
Passes.
Finance and facilities, can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 to 3.09?
So move Beth. Second Carolyn.
And we have a committee report?
We do. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, November 29th, and the first thing on the agenda was the Three Bridges School boiler. There was a presentation by our architect, Santambrino. There's a faulty blower on the boiler motor due to a previous issue, and the new architect, Kevin Santambrino, explained the scope of the repair, which is going to come to approximately a little under $40,000, and we all agreed to move forward with the repair. It also includes a $14,000 architect/engineering fee. The next topic included solar expansion, also a presentation by Santambrino Architects. Kevin suggested the number of solar panels for each of the 4 schools in the district. He then discussed the options of the roof mount, a ground mount, or a canopy mount at each location. And we are still at the beginning stages of analysis regarding solar expansion, but it was agreed to move forward with investigating solar panels at each location. Alternatives were proposed at White House School for further investigation. More specific solar installation costs and financial analysis to follow. And then we had other topics that were tabled due to, we ran out of time. So we were gonna table the capital projects, security enhancements, insurance renewal, as well as the overall board goals. So they're gonna be on the next meeting agenda. And then we scheduled our next meeting for Thursday, January 12th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Dr. Cerci. Thank you, Dr. Cerciello. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes or the action items? All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Betterman,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Zarelli,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
Ms. Hamel.
Yes. Moving on to education technology, can I get a motion to adopt 4.01 to 4.04?
So move Beth. Second Carolyn.
And we have a committee report?
We do. Got this microphone. The Ed Tech Committee met on December 7th. We discussed the Special Education Behavioral Disabilities Program. Mrs. Beagle proposed opening an elementary BD classroom. This new classroom will be offered at TBS. We would need to hire 1 new teacher along with 1 paraprofessional with a behavioral tech background.
TBS already has a social worker, school counselor, and behaviorist, so this BD classroom would make the most sense to be located at Three Bridges. Next, we discussed, this was a very fun and exciting one, the therapy dog proposal. Mr. Charleston and Mrs. Goodfellow proposed piloting an AAT, Animal Assisted Therapy Program at RMS. A therapy dog program fits with the district's SEL goals and curriculum. Mrs. Goodfellow reached out to peer districts about their experience. Flemrare, Alexandria Township, East Brunswick, Princeton, and Ebsecan have therapy dogs in their schools. The scope of the program would be to have students read to the dog in the library and/or classroom, have classroom visits to ease stress, build confidence in students, have student volunteers walk the dog for therapeutic reasons and to build leadership. But in order to move forward with the program, the board needs to adopt a new policy. Alexandria and Ebsecan townships have sample policies that we can look at. The policy should address proper certifications, liability insurance, vaccinations, and a security plan. Once a policy is adopted, the program would begin slowly with the dog first getting acclimated this spring, potentially in counseling sessions, and then building up to classroom visits by the end of the year. A survey was given to staff, students, and parents several weeks ago, and there was overwhelming support for the program. I'm just going to kind of skip, this was very detailed. The survey will be distributed again at the end of the school year to determine plans for continuing or expanding the program next year. And Dr. Hart is researching any costs associated with the program. Next, we discussed summer enrichment program. Mrs. Cryle discussed the summer enrichment program. Colleen Ogden has agreed to be the coordinator again this summer. The classes will take place at the end of July and early August. New session this year, welcome to Hollenbrook School. They're currently recruiting for staff now. Next, we discussed, I do want to spend a minute just updating you on this. A list of interventions follow-up. So as a follow-up to the NJSLA district assessment results that were reported out in the October meeting, administrators have been identifying all possible interventions and supports for students in language arts and math. The district is currently utilizing universal screening tools, curriculum content review, additional targeted word study and phonics instruction, individualized learning paths in iReady, analysis of evidence statements from NJSLA to develop school area of focus, development and use of district data conversation guide and deeper data analysis, literacy consultants at RMS, which was new this school year, the administrative goals based on data, and Tier 1 intervention services. The programs that are funded through ESSER ARP, Accelerate is the Accelerate Learning Program. Sorry, hold on. The programs that are funded through ESSER ARP or Accelerate Learning programs include virtual homework help, open to all students, after-school tutoring, available as needed by teacher, Litera literacy tutoring as recommended by intervention criteria, and summer accelerate learning in math and ELA, which is recommended by intervention criteria also. Administrators are exploring additional programs such as in-school and after-school tutoring, and that would be for K-8, and after-school clubs in STEM for math and readers theater ELA for grades K-5. Administrators will work to communicate these interventions out to parents and community members to encourage participation. Next, we discussed the safe return plan. As Dr. Hart said, we are required to submit a revised safe return plan every 6 months in order to receive ESSER ARP funding. Next, we discussed the book challenge process. The school district received the formal book challenge, and we convened a committee in accordance with policy 9130, public complaints and grievances, which states the committee comprised of professional staff members and community representatives will report its findings to the board according to the policy and regulation. And then next, we scheduled our next meeting for January 10th at 8:30.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiore. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes or the action items?
I just had a question on the book review process. So are we voting as a board no matter what happens, or is it just if they remove it, we vote on it? Or what's the process? I would think we'd have to vote on the report, right?
According to our policy, yeah.
Go ahead.
According to our policy, the committee will report the findings to the board, and then only if the board were to take action to remove the book, would it appear on the agenda. Is that correct?
The board will take action. Committee decision.
If the committee, if the committee were to make a recommendation to remove the book, it would come to the full board, and then the board would vote.
But the committee has to recommend that, so the board does not make the decision.
Only the board can make the decision to
Remove.
remove.
But the recommendation comes from the committee.
Correct.
Yes.
But, so they recommend it remains, and we don't do anything with that? We don't even vote on it?
Right, that's as our policy is written.
Does anyone know the purpose of that? Is it?
I'll just say that further conversation with board council regarding how we move forward is in process.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
I just had a question for you, Beth, about, you talked about a lot of interventions, which I think are great, but I didn't hear a lot about math intervention. And I know some of the scores we have historically struggled with are those 8th grade math scores, right? So did you talk about that at all and what supports are going to be put in place for that?
Yeah.
And I didn't do my microphone. Andy, you gotta push it for me.
I forgot too.
I would say that the plan is for more to come online, that the administrators are looking at all the options now. So this was just what we're currently doing, and then hoping to get more coming up. That was the in-school versus maybe after-school tutoring. That's probably where the math would take place.
Oh, that won't be done during school hours. That'll be something done in additional school time.
I'll also add that some of the clubs that we're thinking of creating in terms of garnering more student engagement are very much focused on like STEM-like clubs, Legos with STEM, integrating math, science, and engineering all together. So you may see recommendations for some very math and STEM-heavy clubs after the first of the year.
Great.
So if all goes well.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm excited about the clubs. I think that was an ingenuitive way to try to engage more students, because our problem currently is we can throw all of the programs that we want, but they have to engage. So how do we get the engagement? Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Benjamin.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore.
Yes.
Mr. Beach.
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Zerone.
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello.
Yes.
Ms. Hamlin.
Yes.
Passes.
Moving on to personnel, can I get a motion to adopt 5.01, 5.08?
So moved, Carolyn?
Second, Camille?
And we have a committee report.
We do. So the Personnel Committee met on December 6th, and we discussed staffing updates, technology department staff and the shared services with Tewksbury, enrollment projections for 2023-2024 year, staffing projections for the year 2023 to 2024, other personnel matters, and then the agenda items of new staff to hire, termination of employment, and the Tewksbury shared service. And we scheduled our next meeting for Friday, January 13th.
Thank you, Mrs. Bogorski. Are there any questions or comments on the items on the agenda or the minutes? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Benjamin.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore.
Yes.
Mr. Beach.
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Zerone.
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello.
Yes.
Ms. Hamlin.
Yes.
Passes.
Moving on to communication, can I get a motion to adopt 6.01?
So moved, Carolyn?
Second, Beth?
We did not have a committee report. Are there any questions on the policies for second read? All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Benjamin.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore.
Yes.
Mr. Beach.
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Zerone.
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello.
Yes.
Ms. Hamlin.
Yes.
Passes.
All right.
Can I just say something about the policy committee next meeting?
Yeah.
I just want to remind the board members that we asked for input for the next policy committee meeting, so if anyone has additional input for us on the opt-in versus opt-out change in our policies, then please just respond to me and Dr. Hart and Mrs. Campbell, and we will discuss it at our meeting on the 20th. Thank you.
December 20th, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the email that you already sent, or is there gonna be another email coming?
The email I already sent, and you already responded, Camille, so unless you have additional thoughts, I'm happy to hear them.
All right, got it.
Yeah, you responded to Randy, unless you have more thoughts. Okay.
I hope I didn't reply all.
You did, but it's fine, it's all good. It's all good.
No, that was the one.
I replied all too, from my personal email.
I know, I'm just
It
saying.
was a mess.
It's all good. That's why I'm saying it tonight, so.
All right, moving on to unfinished business. Governor Murphy's mental health plan, we talked about this at our last meeting. Since then, he has decided to keep the, I'm gonna get the initials wrong, but the family health plan in place, funded for the next year.
Yeah. So funding comes in a couple of different ways. One of the ways, particularly districts like Hunterdon Central get funding for their school-based youth services program is through DCF, the Division of Children and Families. That funding is remaining. And we will, fingers crossed, according to him, that's what he's communicated, but we'll look for that funding when the budget is developed and presented later on this year. But so far, good news, that funding remains.
Thank you. All right, moving on to new business from the board. We would like to recognize Mrs. Fiore for her new board member boardsmanship certification. This was 10 credits worth of extra work that she did to become a good, outstanding board member. And
I'm never telling you again,
this is something, right now, since I've been on the board and since I'm the longest tenured board member, I can say that you're the first one that's done it. So, including myself. So, congratulations and thank you.
I highly recommend it. I didn't even know that I was close to it. I had like 1 credit away and I was like, oh, what's this? I might as well do it. So it's through New Jersey School Board. It's really, I think it's a good program. It kind of helped tell me what things I need to look to do. And so I recommend it for new board members for sure.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Zwirlin, we have the committee minutes.
Thank you. We had a meeting, a brief meeting on November 29th, which was just the board members. It was with Kevin Sedembrino, the board architect, where he presented the options for the solar array expansion. He discussed the panel placement at the 4 district schools, and he elicited the board. There was a time for some questions, and he elicited the board, the committee members' preferences. On December 7th, then, there was a meeting of the full committee, including the public members. The first subject that was addressed was by Sarah Pouch. She discussed the sustainability curriculum and its integration into the classrooms with the teachers. She's going to visit all the schools to discuss it in meetings, and she also explained the deep dive opportunities that were presented. The next subject that was addressed was by Ms. Freeman. She discussed that the 3rd grade classes will be taught, and she discussed it actually some today. The RMS Trout in the Classroom project, which is was titled RMS Indoor Ecosystem Tour, Exploring Life on Land and Life Below Water, where the 3rd grade students are going to be mentored by RMS students. This is a standards-aligned workshop, which includes computer science, language arts, visual arts, science, performing arts. Participation of public members was discussed, in particular Jerry Cook, who's affiliated with a number of the township in a number of different capacities, who has long championed this project. I don't know if he ultimately, did Jerry attend ultimately?
Since today was our first one, we decided that Friday we would open up the public to make sure.
Oh, okay. So there's another one on Friday? What time is it?
It is from 9 o'clock to 11:30.
Of course, and I will be lecturing, so. As life goes.
Invitations.
Anyway, we'll talk about this offline. There was another discussion about the RMS, about the solar array expansion status. The current status is, of the ongoing analysis was presented, as was a potential alternate array configuration at the White House School, which was not presented on November 29th. Financial analysis and further analysis of placements are to follow, as are renderings of the proposed canopies. Several public members spoke in support of the project and its goals. There were then public comments. One was by Steve Foster, who spoke, public member of the committee, who spoke in tribute to, I don't mean to speak in the third person, but spoke in support of, in tribute to Mr. Zorling's tenure as its chair. The next green meeting will be on March 15th, 2023. That is the minutes. I would like then, if you'll permit me the indulgence, I want to discuss, I want to talk to the board a bit, because this is my last meeting, about the ongoing solar project, the expansion of the initiative here. We just today got some rough estimates of the financial savings that are going to be potentially realized by the architect, by this project. It's just shy of $1.5 million over the course of a 15-year contract. Just think of the educational good we can do with that money. That alone should be motivational to go forward. But you know that's not the only benefits that this will offer, or why this matters so much to future generations. Over the course of the contract, these panels will prevent 14,700 tons of carbon dioxide from being emitted into the atmosphere. That's 29.4 million pounds. That's the equivalent of removing 200 internal combustion cars from the road each year, not driving 2.25 million miles per year, or Flemington to Seattle and back 400 times, or powering 114 homes. It's the equivalent, it's the amount of carbon sequestered by 1,000 acres of US forests each year. We need to care, and we need to contribute to the solution. These children, as I've said many times, who are in our hallways will be on this earth in the year 2100. Permafrost around the world is melting, and the Colorado River is drying up. It's at crisis levels, and it supplies water to much of the West, including much of the non-New Jersey farmland that feeds America vegetables and fruit. Solar installation won't just save money and prevent carbon dioxide emissions. It will also prevent the generation of other pollutants. Nitrogen oxides, 13,500 pounds. Sulfur dioxide, 19,900 pounds. Particulates, 1,850 pounds, and several others. These other pollutants might not be greenhouse gases, but they do increase the chances of cancer and respiratory diseases. These effects are much more local, and the solar panels reduce the likelihood of children in New Jersey from getting lifelong respiratory diseases. These installations also serve to inspire some of our children to enter the STEM disciplines as they see technology working towards the goal of a better future. Just yesterday, scientists at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory announced a breakthrough in nuclear fusion. It could be an enormous game changer. We need our students to believe in science and aspire to create innovation. Seeing these installations and assessing the data coming from them may well serve that goal. The data for the emissions equivalencies was calculated for me based upon the output of the panels by a research associate at the University of Maryland Center for Global Sustainability. He was previously an intern at the EPA and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, prior to which he was well prepared and educated in the Reddington School District and then Harvard Central High School. my son Matthew. If we educate them well, and we do, and we inspire them well, and we do, they will lead us into a healthy and prosperous future for themselves and future generations. The data above is based on proposed installations meeting 85% of the electrical needs of each of the schools as proposed. The votes you take in this matter are possibly the single most consequential environmental acts you will perform in your life. Never will you have the opportunity to have a greater impact than you will in the coming deliberations and votes. I wish you the very best in all endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Zarella. Would you mind sending your comments there to me? Because the numbers that you had in the beginning, I was trying to jot them down and I couldn't write fast
And I
enough.
would be pleased and honored, as I have been, to work with all of you and for all of you.
Thank you. Can we give a round of applause, please? Okay, is there any other new business from the board?
Yeah, I told Kara I wanted to bring up this new business, new topic. The topic would be developing district-wide policies on cell phone use by children, by our students. We don't seem to have much in the way of policies right now. And, you know, as a parent, even before I came on the board, I was kind of struck by the lack of guidance that the district had. I was talking to a parent recently in Princeton who had a 12-year-old who didn't have a cell phone yet. And I said, well, how did you manage that? And she said, well, she's not getting one until she's 13, and that's the school's recommendation. And I thought maybe we could look into doing something like that district-wide, or at least taking a position on it. It doesn't have to be a certain age or grade, but looking into what it should be. And, you know, I'm not talking about doing anything mandatory. I don't think you could make it mandatory. It wouldn't be enforceable, but, and it, you know, ultimately it would be up to the parents. I think it's the parents' choice about whether to give their kid a cell phone. But for parents who are trying to hold off on giving their child a smartphone, give them something to latch on to have a policy, just a recommendation that says this is the position of the school. So I wanted to see maybe if there was interest in doing something on that. You know, I know in my own case, you know, my wife and I, you know, we had these grand plans as well as putting off the cell phones until first it was high school, and then we kept moving it back. And we finally relented at the end of sixth grade, and it was only because I think they were like the last two in the school without phones. And it became very difficult. We felt like they were being excluded socially because they didn't have phones. And then they would go on a field trip, and the teachers assumed everyone had a phone and would say things like, you know, when we get back, everyone can text their parents. And they were just assuming that's every child had a phone to do that. So it became very, very difficult. It would have been nice to be able to point to something that said, this is what the school recommends. I mean, I just think it's a big risk, you know. And I remember when we were going over the health curriculum, you know, being struck on how we just every single aspect. You know, we have advice on every single aspect of these kids' lives. You know, we tell them there was something in the health curriculum about, you know, not getting Lyme disease or how to watch out for tick bites, and we're ignoring like the elephant in the room, I think, which is the dangers posed by the phones, you know, just in terms of distraction and everything, but then just the social media, I mean, Instagram. I just think Instagram is just a danger to, you know, young girls, especially. And so I don't know. I just looking at the policies we have are pretty anemic, and it would be nice to maybe develop something a little bit stronger and see what people's thoughts are on it. I'm not looking to do anything mandatory. I mean, it's a parent's decision. So that's it.
Maybe we can sit on it and think on it. I know I've had time to digest it, so, I don't know if anybody else has any
I'm
comments.
interested, just looking to see how Princeton is written and.
Yeah, I'd like to get you more on that. I haven't done that yet, but I wanted to raise it before the end of the year.
I think, I agree with you, I think it's something that we could consider,
Yeah,
because it's a concern we all have.
yeah.
If we could put that off, I think we all would like to, honestly. But is it realistic? So, but it's certainly something that I think we talk about, and that's a good place to start, is how does another town do it? How did they accomplish it? I agree with you not making it mandatory.
Yeah.
Parents probably more than anything, they want to have their child have a cell phone for safety reasons, they want to be able to contact them, God forbid something happens, especially.
Yeah, and I
this
know
day and
that's,
age.
yeah, that's gonna be a concern.
That's that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think anything's worth talking about, so I'm for discussing.
Well, thank you.
I'll just add one thing. Princeton might be the model, I don't know, but I would certainly want to at least talk to Mr. Charleston, our middle school principal. One, I think that he lives it every day, so he sees how cell phones are used and misused at the middle school. But two, he comes from Princeton, so if they implemented something novel that we're not considering, I think that he may have a perspective that none of us have in terms of their deliberations and how they did it. And in addition, I think that when we come to make decisions or recommendations about things that based off of data, science, some kind of survey, something, right?
Yeah.
To find if we're going to create such a stance, where would we go with this? Would it be 12? Would it be 13? Would it be 15? I mean, what would be the ideal? We got a little taste of that several years ago when we showed the films Screenagers, and in terms of mental health, physical health, students' use of cell phones, and the impact it can have. But I guess this is my long-winded way of saying I think our middle school principal could be valuable in exploring something like this. So.
And he came from Princeton.
I think it would be great to hear his insight and experience. I'd love to learn more about what other schools are doing.
Okay, thank you, Randy.
Well, thank you.
Any other new business? Can I ask the audience, I keep forgetting to mute. Do you hear feedback? No? Okay,
I can hear you pretty well, but some of the other ones are a little harder to hear.
okay. So that means that the microphone is working. Okay. So that is a reminder for us to remember to unmute so they can hear, because this is for them, right? This
Yes,
one.
it should be coming out of those.
Yeah, this little one is for you guys
Those
back
speakers in
there,
the back,
okay. All right, so we are now open to the public for items on and off the agenda.
Hi, my name is David Rosen, and I just have a process question. You guys were talking about the process to remove books from library. I would imagine every year there's X hundreds of books that get added, and X hundreds that get deleted, to replace them and so on an ongoing basis. So just what the process is, does the librarian send a list to the superintendent, who sends it to the board, who agrees and then does the funding, just how the process works to get new books added and ones removed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grissom.
I just wanted to add a comment about the intervention program. So I didn't add it before, but my daughter's in the intervention with Mr. Baltov at White House. And he is awesome. I don't know if he's new. I don't know if he's part of this, because of that program, whatever, but he's really, really awesome and made a huge difference in my daughter's reading, but also her confidence. So I want to say thanks for that.
Thank you, Mr. Barton, that's nice to hear. Are there any other comments or questions?
Justina Ryan, just about the book again, but speaking as a mom of a daughter in the middle school, she won't be 14 until next June in 8th grade. So I know the book is available for 14 and up, but I don't know how the librarian can actually control how old a child is that is taking that book out of the library. So I also do feel it belongs in the high school. Two other questions is, I also don't know what the process is, but is the book currently removed while it's being reviewed? That's my one question. And the other one is, will correspondence from the parents in regards to this book be communicated to the committee members? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Jacqueline Hindle, Reddington, child in Hollenbrook School, one in Reddington Middle School. A question about Mrs. Fiore's report about the therapy dog, which I think is awesome. I may have missed it, but I'm wondering if that access is for all the students, and then a concern if there are students that have allergies, what kind of a dog it is, if there are any either measures taken for that, or the parents can say, well, my child has allergies to dog hair, dog saliva, whatever it might be, to be addressed. Second, I think that when people hear something often enough, they begin to believe that it's true. There was a comment made earlier by a resident here just tonight, referencing the healthcare curriculum and talking about gender and the anal sex in 2nd to 6th grade curriculum. And you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that the only discussion about gender in the very early grades is boy, girl. Girls can have any jobs they want, and so on and so forth, and that actual gender identity is not discussed until much later. I know that parents have concerns this is being discussed in White House and in 3 Bridges, and I think that's just not true. So perhaps some clarification on that. And as far as anal sex, that is just a discussion on STD transmission, not like it's a tutorial or anything like that. And then lastly, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Zorley for your time, your service, and everything you've done for our district and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kendall.
Any?
Hello, Christina Albrecht. I really would like to give a heartfelt thanks to Mr. Zorling. I am a public member of the Green Team this last year, and I know Mr. Zorling is a community member. I have read communications from the board, from our superintendent for the however many years about how our school has always been very pro-sustainable, pro-green, and I know it has a lot to do with you, Mr. Zorling. And I want to give you my deep thanks for that. As a parent, because my children are benefiting from it. As a taxpayer, because, for instance, the solar panels that we have are saving our taxpayers money. So thank you. Second thing I want to say, Mr. Peach, thank you so much for bringing up the possibility of a cell phone policy. I really like this idea. As a parent, one, it would certainly give me something to refer to. I think we probably crossed that barrier, but all that aside, yes. To offer my observations as a parent volunteer, I have led as a parent volunteer at 7th grade Walk in the Woods for the last 6 or 7 years. And so initially my children were very small, but I was leading these 7th graders and I was thinking to myself, oh goodness, they're so big and they have so much to say and so much energy. Now I have a 7th grader. But I asked them some questions just to kind of get to know them. And one of the questions that I asked them was, how many of you have a cell phone? So initially, probably about half the class would raise their hands. And then every year, every ensuing year that I was leading the 7th grade Walk in the Woods, more and more hands would go up. And essentially now, the whole class is indeed using a cell phone, having a cell phone, carrying a cell phone. And what I will add to that further is these students, while on this Walk in the Woods, a hike on our Reddington Township open space, what were they doing? They were not looking around and observing the trees and the flora and the fauna. To me, the entire point of the walk, and I think why we do it as a school field trip, but they were on their devices. And I thought that was something rather negative, frankly speaking. And it has over time changed. Now the teachers are encouraging the kids to leave the phones in the pocket. You know, we're out here, we're out in the woods. let's appreciate that. And I, as a hike leader, have spoken up more firmly about it, saying, we're out here in the woods, let's appreciate that, and let's keep our phones in our pockets. But it would be really wonderful if our school system had some sort of guideline, age or grade or otherwise, to encourage students to either not have a phone, leave their phone at home, or something that parents can refer to. So, I'm thinking that's a timer.
Thank you, Mrs. Albrecht.
Thank you.
Well, since everybody else has come up, Neil Hendrickson, White House Station. I want to thank Eric too while I have an opportunity, because I'm the chair of the Environmental Commission in Reddington, and I always look for inspiration for our committee, for things to do. And every time I sit on a school's green committee meeting, I leave with some inspiration and some incentive to try to do more. So I want to thank you for that, because your influence goes far beyond the schools into the town. And I wanted to have our Environmental Commission work more closely. And I want to thank Betsy Freeman for that too. So that's one thing. And as far as cell phones, yes, I agree. I don't have a child. I have a grandchild, and my oldest one is 10. I support a policy because as a lifelong arborist, tree hugger, nature person, getting my grandkids into the woods is a joy to me, but a pain to them, because if on the most beautiful day, he would rather be on his phone doing video games. And my whole family is been like me. And so, but the big change has been we didn't have them and they do. So I appreciate that you're going to look into this, because all the things that I see Betsy doing and what I've tried to do, it would just be better if they didn't have the opportunity to pop open their cell phones while they were taking our walk in the woods. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hendrickson.
Because I think I left this impression that Eric Swirling is totally touchy-feely. And I think I forgot to mention this part about the relentless grilling that I've experienced and I've witnessed in the Green Committee meetings about the efficiency of the solar panels. How much do they cost? And like really getting down into the weeds on that. And so I appreciate that expertise that you bring to the table too.
Thank you, Mrs. Freeman. Are there any comments online?
There's one. The Parcells family would like to ask a question.
Okay.
It can be unmuted.
Hi, thank you. My name is Katie Parcells. I just had a question about clubs at Three Bridges. I know that there are some club opportunities for third graders, but I was just wondering what the reasoning is for them not being available to the younger students as well. I know my son would love to participate in some after school activities, and I also have a kindergartner as well as a 3-year-old who may eventually attend the school. And so I was wondering if that's ever been considered, adding enrichment activities or clubs for the students that are younger than 3rd grade.
Thank you, Mrs. Parcells.
Matt Hammer, database administrator. My resignation was on the board agenda for tonight. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the community of Reddington for a wonderful 11 years. I'm going to miss everybody so much. It's a fantastic district. It was a very difficult decision, but it's a great board, great administration, fantastic staff, and phenomenal community. So thank you so much again.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any other comments? Okay.
We are now closed. We're just gonna close it first.
Okay. Sorry.
We're now closed to the public, and Dr. Hart, would you like to answer any of the questions?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to move this along. I'll start with Mr. Riz's question in terms of process for removal of materials. We have a process where materials throughout the district, whether it's box kits of curricular materials, books, televisions, anything that's purchased with public monies, if it's something that could be donated, we first curate a list and we put something on, we call it Gov Deals, which is where other entities can purchase the things that we are looking to dispose of, including school buses potentially, those sorts of things. If something is not disposed of on Gov Deals, it comes to the Board of Education, and you may see on occasion a list of things to be disposed of. So the board would approve removal of curricular materials or something for disposal. So that's the ordinary process of materials getting weeded out from our classrooms, from our libraries, from our IT closet. Things get disposed of either through Gov Deals or approval from the board to just dispose of the property, meaning throw it out in the trash. That would be an ordinary process.
My understanding was his question was how to bring the books in, the approval
Oh,
process.
the approval process for bringing books in.
Yeah.
I really misread that one. I'm sorry about that. Bringing books in, the librarian attends conferences, both local and regional conferences, has memberships to magazines, and uses local colleagues to do something we call collection development. When there's a book that she wishes to be added to the library, she submits the list to the principal of the school. The list usually comes in the form of a purchase order to purchase those books based off of recommendations she gets from her national local associations. The building principal approves of the list, approves of the purchase order, sends it to the business administrator, it's reviewed and approved, and then sends it to me, it's reviewed and approved. So anytime we purchase materials or books for the library, everything is done through purchase order, and those lists are reviewed by several levels of administration. And now you know how we dispose of them too. So did I miss something? Go ahead.
I would just add that the book that's in question right now has been in the district for 10 years.
That's correct. Yes.
And that's why I was just kind of asking, so it must have been approved 10 years ago, so the administration approves and not necessarily the board then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. A list would maybe not be seen by the board. They would approve a bill to be paid to a purchaser, but they would not necessarily see a list of materials. And that's driven by our policy for adoption of resource materials that are not necessarily driven by curriculum. The board approves curriculum, in curriculum resource materials are approved there by the Board of Education, but other materials, like videos or library books, classroom libraries, things like that are governed by the administration through our policy. Next question. I think from Mrs. Ryan in terms of how we have controls in our system. Our librarian doesn't have age controls. She has grade level controls in our system. So it's, 8th grade controls in terms of certain books. I know that if a book is checked out in the library, oftentimes our librarian will notice a title, will notice that the child has checked it out, and oftentimes call a parent just to let them know that a child was interested in taking out a book, just to let the parent know that, they may have it in circulation. The book has not been removed from the library right now because the board has not taken action to remove the book. It may be out of circulation, meaning it's not on the shelf because it's checked out either by someone who's currently reading it. I know our librarian and our supervisor were doing an administrative review as well, just to review the book as it's been 10 years. But it has not been removed. The only way it may not be on our shelf is if it's in circulation in someone's hands, either a staff member in the building or a child. We will communicate with the complainant in terms of the complaint that was filed for removal of the book. The report will be provided to the Board of Education. If any member of the public wishes to get a copy of the report, they can ask, or they can just come to the board meeting, see the recommendation from the committee. Mrs. Hindle, the therapy dog, it's our intention for the dog to have access to any child who wants it, albeit slowly. We want to make sure that this program is successful. So it's not something that I think the dog, I don't believe the intention from Mr. Charleston or Mrs. Goodfellow is to have the dog be, visiting classrooms and wandering the hallways within the first month or two. I think, one-on-one sessions in the counseling suite, something like that is where the dog will be in the very beginning to get students and staff comfortable with the dog. And then move beyond into maybe reading with children in the library, visiting small group instruction, intervention instruction, special education classes, where students maybe could read or visit with the dog. But the definite intention from Mr. Charleston and Mrs. Goodfellow was to do a slow and deliberate rollout for anyone who would want to have contact with the therapy dog. In the process of developing policy, I looked at some sample policies, and one sample policy does have a clause in there about getting a permission slip. So in terms of allergies, or someone who may have fear of dogs, I know my own children have fear of dogs, no matter how big or little. They want to love them, but they just can't. And I would be cognizant of that with children and adults. We would send a permission slip home to parents on an annual basis, let them know that there is a therapy dog in school, and sign, that they wish their child to interact with the dog or not. For clarity, Mrs. Hindle, I think you said this, discussion of awareness of gender identity doesn't begin until 4th and 5th grade. Discussion of oral, anal, and vaginal sex in the confines of how disease is transmitted is 7th grade. There is nothing in our curriculum regarding masturbation. I think that was the other one that came up. That was an example put forth from the state of something that may be discussed, but that's nowhere in our curriculum other than appearing in the state standard. But kids ask questions, just so you know. Middle school classrooms can be very unpredictable places. So I want to let you know that as well. I think that was everything. Ms. Hindle, I think that was everything that I got.
Just to add that the dog is hypoallergenic. It's sorry, Mrs. Goodfellow, I know it's a poodle mix.
It's a Maltipoo, and it was bred and chosen for a therapy dog because it's hypoallergenic in nature, intelligence, and.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodfellow. Some comments thanking Eric, I'll mirror those. Mrs. Parcell asked about after-school enrichment at Three Bridges or the elementary buildings for grades younger than grade 3. And I think the answer to that is yes, that clubs for students in grades K through 2 are under consideration currently, and that's what we referenced through Ed Tech. So there may very well be opportunities for students in grades K through 2 in the elementary grades to attend some after-school enrichment activities. And Matt, we'll miss you. Thank you for everything you've done for our district.
Thank you, Matt.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got
I
it.
got everything?
All right, can I get a motion to move to executive session to discuss HIB for approximately 30 minutes, at which time the board expects to return to public session where action will not be taken. The matters discussed will be made public if and when the circumstances exist requiring confidentiality no longer exist. However, it is not presently known when such circumstances will exist.
So move that.
Second, Jennifer. Can I have roll call?
Mrs. Betterman.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore.
Yes.
Mr. Peach.
Yes.
Mrs. Zagorski.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland.
Yes.
Dr. Cielo.
Yes.
Ms. Hamel.
Yes. 8:30. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have